Hi, and thanks for watching another instructional video for CSCI 1300. In this video, we will talk about how to gather input validation when handling user input. An important application for the if statement is input validation. Whenever your program accepts user input, you need to make sure that the user supplied values are valid before you use them in your computations. So check out the following program. We are going to ask the user of the program to enter a number between 1 to 10. And if once we actually generate the number and we store it into the value or to the variable num, what we're going to do is we're going to use an if-else to check if we actually got what we were looking for. So we want the number to be in a range between 1 to 10. And if it's not in that range, then we can't use it. So it would be invalid input. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an if-else block where we check to see if we get the correct thing. And if we get the correct thing, we can do some process and move on with our code. Otherwise, we're going to print an error message to the user, and we're going to use a return 1. Notice that we're using a return 1 inside of the else block. The return 1 will stop the program the moment that it is seen by the compiler, and it will exit out of the code. It is a convention to return with a value of 0 if the program completed normally, and with a non-zero value when an error was occurred. This relates to Boolean logic because true would mean 1, which means that something truly did happen. We had an error. And if there was no error, then that would be false, and we would return 0 because we did not have anything go wrong. So let's go ahead and test some values here in the code. And when I run it, you're going to notice that we're going to get a prompt for a number. If I enter, say, the value of 5, which would be in the range, the input will be accepted. So we go into the check. We realize that the if statement is true. And we go in and we do whatever process we need to with that input. Now, if I was to run the same program and I was to give it, say, like a negative value, like -2, see, we went into the else block because the if was false. The evaluation check in the parentheses was false. The number was out of the range that we were looking for. And so we got an error message. And we also used a return command that gives us a different return value. So if we check the return value from this function, we will recognize that there was a 1 there. And if we get a 1 out of the function, then we realize that something went wrong. We didn't do something that we needed to. That's all for user input and validation. Thanks, and happy coding.